Captain Lee Dae-ho checked his flight controls for the third time that morning. The cargo bay of his ship, the Silver Wind, was packed with medical supplies bound for the Outer Rim colonies. It was supposed to be a simple run: deliver the medicine, pick up some rare metals, and return to Earth within 2 weeks. Nothing fancy, nothing dangerous. Course plotted and ready for hyperspace jump, said Park So-young from the navigator's seat beside him. She had been his partner for 5 years now, and Dae-ho trusted her calculations more than the ship's computer. So-young never made mistakes with numbers. Good. Let's get this done, Dae-ho replied, settling back in his captain's chair. He reached for the hyperspace activation switch, thinking about the bonus payment waiting for him back home. His sister was getting married next month, and he wanted to buy her something special. The Silver Wind shuddered as it entered hyperspace. Through the front window, normal space disappeared, replaced by the swirling blue and white tunnel that would carry them across dozens of star systems in just a few hours. Dae-ho had made this jump hundreds of times. It should have been routine. That's when everything went wrong. A loud crack echoed through the ship. Red warning lights started flashing across every control panel. The hyperspace tunnel around them began to twist and bend in ways that made Dae-ho's stomach turn. Engine failure, So-young shouted over the screaming alarms. The hyperspace drive is tearing itself apart. Dae-ho's hands moved across the controls, trying to stabilize their flight, but it was too late. The tunnel collapsed around them, and the Silver Wind was thrown back into normal space like a stone from a slingshot. When the ship stopped spinning and the emergency lights dimmed, Dae-ho looked out the window and felt his blood turn cold. In front of them was a planet he recognized from every star chart in the galaxy. A world that appeared in nightmares and cautionary tales told to young pilots, Cathara Prime. The Forbidden World. Tell me that's not what I think it is. So-young whispered. Dae-ho checked their position 3 times. Each time, the computer gave the same answer. They were in the Cathara system, and their engines were completely dead. For over 3,000 years, the Galactic Council had maintained one absolute law above all others. No sentient being was allowed to approach Cathara Prime. The planet was surrounded by automated defense systems that would destroy any ship that came too close. The Council taught every spacefaring species that Cathara was cursed, dangerous, and protected by ancient powers that could tear holes in reality itself. Hundreds of ships had tried to reach the planet over the centuries. Pirates seeking legendary treasure, scientists curious about the mysteries, rebels running from council justice. None had ever returned. Their wreckage formed a metal graveyard in the space around Cathara, a warning to anyone foolish enough to follow. Defense drones, So-young said, pointing at her scanner. 12 of them, closing fast. Dae-ho could see them now, sleek metal shapes moving toward the Silver Wind with deadly purpose. Each drone was the size of a fighter ship and armed with weapons that could cut through their hull like paper. Can we jump out? He asked. So-young shook her head. The engines are fried. We're not going anywhere. The lead drone was close enough now that they could see its weapon systems charging up. A blue glow built along its forward edge, the same color as the energy beams that had destroyed so many ships before them. Dae-ho made a choice that would change everything. Instead of trying to fight or surrender, he pointed the Silver Wind's nose toward Cathara Prime and fired every thruster they had left. The ship lurched forward, diving toward the planet's atmosphere. What are you doing? So-young grabbed her safety harness. If we're going to die anyway, let's at least see what's down there, Dae-ho said through gritted teeth. The defense drones followed them down, but something strange happened as the Silver Wind entered the planet's upper atmosphere. The drones suddenly stopped firing. They circled the ship like confused birds, their targeting systems apparently unable to lock on. They're not shooting, So-young said in amazement. Maybe the atmosphere interferes with their systems, Dae-ho suggested, though he didn't really believe it. The Silver Wind shook and rattled as it fell through the clouds. Without proper engines, Dae-ho could only try to control their descent, aiming for what looked like a flat area covered in strange crystalline trees. The planet's surface was nothing like the dead wasteland described in council records. It was beautiful, covered in forests that seemed to glow with their own light, crossed by rivers that flowed uphill, and dotted with structures that looked both ancient and impossibly advanced. "This doesn't look cursed to me," So Young muttered. The silver wind hit the ground hard, skidding through the crystal forest before finally coming to rest against a cluster of purple rocks that felt warm to the touch. Steam rose from the ship's damaged hull, but they were alive. 20,000 light-years away, in the towering spires of the Galactic Council headquarters, alarms began sounding. Admiral Vexithari, the Council's most feared enforcer, studied the reports with growing anger. Not only had a human ship violated the most sacred law in the galaxy, but it had somehow survived both the defense systems and the landing. Impossible. Vexithari growled, his forearms moving across multiple control panels at once. His species, the Veltai, had served as the Council's military arm for 2 millennia. They were proud of their perfect record. No violation of Council law had ever gone unpunished. "Sir," his aide reported, "the defense drones have gone silent. We're receiving no data from the planet's surface." Vexithari's compound eyes narrowed. In all his years of service, the Cathara defense grid had never failed. Ships that approached the planet were destroyed instantly, their crews never given the chance to set foot on the forbidden soil. "Assemble the Third Fleet," he ordered. "Whatever happened down there, we will correct it." Back on Kithara Prime, Deho and So Young checked their equipment and prepared to explore. Their ship's hull was cracked. Their communications array was damaged, and their food supplies would last maybe a week. But they were alive on a world that was supposed to kill anyone who touched it. "The air is breathable," So Young reported, reading her scanner. "Temperature is perfect. Gravity is slightly lighter than Earth standard." Deho opened the ship's airlock and took his first step onto Kethara Prime. His boot touched ground that no galactic citizen had walked on for 3,000 years. As his foot made contact with the crystal soil, something extraordinary happened. The entire forest around them began to sing. The Council ships hung in the sky like dark clouds, but they didn't attack immediately. Deho realized they were probably trying to figure out how his ship had survived the defense systems that had destroyed every other vessel for 3,000 years. "We need to find shelter," Elder Taemin said, leading them away from the clearing. "Vexithari will want to study the situation before he acts, but he will not wait long." As they walked deeper into the Katharan settlement, Deho saw more impossible things. Children played games where they made small rocks dance in the air above their hands. Adults tended gardens where plants grew in perfect geometric patterns, their roots forming complex designs in the soil. Everything on this world seemed to respond to the will of its inhabitants. "How do you do it?" So Young asked Kira, who was walking beside them. "The quantum manipulation, how is it possible?" Kira paused and picked up a fallen crystal leaf. As she held it, the leaf began to glow, then slowly transformed into what looked like a butterfly made of pure light. "It is not magic," she explained, letting the light butterfly flutter around her hand. "It is understanding. Everything in the universe is connected by quantum fields, tiny, invisible strings that tie all matter and energy together. Most species can only observe these fields. We learn to touch them." The light butterfly landed on Deho's shoulder, and he felt a strange warmth spread through his body. For just a moment, he could sense something vast and interconnected surrounding him, as if he could feel the quantum threads that held the entire planet together. "Your people could learn this too," Elder Taemin said, noticing Deho's reaction. "Humans have minds that adapt quickly. With training, you could manipulate quantum fields just as we do." "The Council would never allow it," So Young said. "That is why the Council lied about us," Taemin replied. 3,000 years ago, we taught our abilities to many species. The galaxy became a place of wonders. Planets could be healed in days instead of centuries. Ships could travel faster than light without massive engines. People could communicate across any distance instantly. They reached the center of the settlement, where a group of Ketharans had gathered around a large crystal structure that pulsed with soft blue light. As Taemin approached, the crystal grew brighter, and images began forming in its surface. "This is the memory stone," Taemin explained. It holds the history of our people. The images showed the galaxy as it had been long ago. Hundreds of different alien species working together, sharing knowledge and resources. Ships that flew without engines, using quantum manipulation to bend space around them. Damaged planets restored to life by beings who could touch the fundamental forces of nature. It was a golden age, Taemin said, but it could not last. The images changed, showing a different scene, a group of species forming an alliance calling themselves the Galactic Trade Federation. At first they seemed peaceful, offering to organize commerce and communication between worlds, but their true goal became clear as the images continued. They wanted control, Kira said. They could not manipulate quantum fields themselves, so they built machines to do it instead. Massive computers, enormous engines, complex communication networks. These machines gave them power, but only if no one else could do the same things more easily. The images showed the Federation's transformation into the Galactic Council. They began spreading fear about quantum manipulation, claiming it was dangerous and unpredictable. They pointed to accidents caused by untrained users and called them proof that such abilities should be banned. Then they came here, Taemin said sadly. The final images showed the war that followed, Council fleets attacking Kethara Prime, not to destroy it but to capture it. Battles fought across the crystal forests as the Ketharans defended their home. In the end, the Council's victory came not through superior weapons, but through sheer numbers and the willingness to threaten other species if they helped the Ketharans. They could not kill us all, Taemin explained. Our quantum abilities made us too difficult to destroy completely. So instead, they trapped us here and told the galaxy we were extinct. Above them, the Council ships began moving into attack positions. Daeho could see weapon ports opening on their hulls. Why haven't they fired yet? He asked. Because they are afraid, Kira said. For 3,000 years, no ship has ever survived approaching this world. They do not understand how you are still alive. So Young was monitoring her communications equipment, trying to boost their signal through the ship's damaged systems. I'm picking up their transmissions, she reported. They're debating whether to capture us or destroy us. What did they decide? Daeho asked. So Young's face went pale. They're not planning to capture anyone. Vexthari has authorization for complete sterilization of the planet. They're going to burn everything. Elder Taemin placed a gentle hand on Daeho's shoulder. I am sorry, young human. You came here by accident, but now you will share our fate. Daeho looked around at the Ketharan people gathered in the clearing, children hiding behind their parents, adults standing protectively around the elders, all of them facing death, simply because they possessed knowledge that the Council feared. No, he said firmly. This isn't right. There has to be something we can do. What can two humans do against a Council fleet? Kira asked. Daeho didn't have an answer yet, but as he stood there on the forbidden world, surrounded by people who had been imprisoned for 3 millennia simply for being different, he knew he had to try something. The light butterfly still glowed on his shoulder, and he could still feel those strange quantum connections flowing around him. Maybe, just maybe, there was more to being human than even the Council understood. Admiral Vexithari stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the planet below through the main viewing screen. For 3,000 years, the Council had maintained perfect control over Kethara Prime. No ship had ever survived approaching the world. No signal had ever escaped its surface. The Ketharans had been completely cut off from the galaxy, exactly as intended. Until now. Status report, he demanded from his weapons officer. All ships in position, Admiral. Bombardment arrays charged. And ready? And the human ship? Still on the surface. We're detecting 2 life signs moving around near the crash site. Vexithari's 4 hands clenched into fists. 2 humans had accomplished what no being in the galaxy had managed for millennia. They had reached Kethara Prime and lived. Worse, they had done it by accident, which meant the Council's supposedly perfect defense system had somehow failed. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. Impossible. Our jamming field should prevent any signals from escaping. Yes, sir, but somehow they're broadcasting anyway. Down on the planet, So Young worked frantically over their damaged communications array. She had managed to boost the signal by connecting it to one of the crystal trees, which seemed to amplify their transmission in ways she couldn't understand. I've got a connection, she told Daeho. I can reach the human colonies, maybe even Earth. What should we tell them? Daeho asked. Before So Young could answer, Elder Taemin approached with Kira and several other Keitharans. The elder's expression was grave. There is something you must know before you send any message, Taemin said. Something about why the Council truly fears us. He led them to another crystal structure, this one shaped like a pyramid and tall as a building. As they got closer, Daeho could see it was covered in symbols that seemed to shift and move when he wasn't looking directly at them. This is the archive, Taemin explained. It contains the true history of our people and the real reason for our imprisonment. The elder placed his hands on the crystal surface and the pyramid began to glow. Images formed in the air above it. Not flat pictures, but three-dimensional scenes that looked completely real. Before the council rose to power, the galaxy was very different, Taemin began. Each species developed technology in their own way. Some built great machines, others learned to modify their own biology, and we discovered how to work with quantum fields directly. The images showed dozens of different alien civilizations, each unique and advanced in their own way. Ships that looked like living creatures, cities that floated in the air, beings of pure energy working alongside flesh and blood species. We were teachers then, Kira added. Any species that wanted to learn quantum manipulation was welcome to study with us. We shared our knowledge freely. But the Trade Federation, what became the Council, had a different vision, Taemin said. They wanted standardization, control, a galaxy where all technology came from them, where all species depended on their machines and their rules. The images changed, showing the gradual transformation of the Federation into something darker. Species that refused to abandon their traditional technologies found themselves cut off from trade routes. Worlds that wouldn't accept Council oversight faced economic sanctions or worse. The Keitharans represented everything the Council opposed. Taemin continued. We could do with our minds what they needed massive machines to accomplish. Worse, we could teach others to do the same. Daeho watched the images show the beginning of the war. Council ships attacking Keitharan colonies across the galaxy, not to destroy them but to capture their inhabitants and force them back to the homeworld. They told the galaxy we had become dangerous, Taemin said. That quantum manipulation was destroying reality itself. They showed footage of accidents, beginners who had made mistakes while learning, and claimed we were all unstable weapons, waiting to explode. But it wasn't true? So Young asked. No more true than saying all humans are dangerous because some humans have caused accidents with their technology, Kira replied. Quantum manipulation requires training and wisdom, just like any other skill. But the Council needed fear to justify what they planned to do. The final images showed the siege of Cathara Prime, thousands of Council ships surrounding the planet, demanding surrender. The Keitharans trying to negotiate, offering to restrict their teachings or submit to oversight. All proposals rejected. In the end, they offered us a choice, Taemin said. Accept permanent isolation on our homeworld, or watch them destroy every other species that had learned quantum manipulation from us. Daeho felt sick. You sacrificed yourselves to save others. We thought it was temporary, Taemin replied. We believed that eventually, the galaxy would see through the Council's lies and demand our freedom. We have been waiting 3,000 years for that day. Suddenly, So Young's communications equipment crackled to life. I'm receiving a transmission from the Council fleet, she reported. Admiral Vexithari's voice filled the clearing, speaking in the cold, formal tone that had terrified countless species across the galaxy. Attention, human vessel. You have violated the most sacred law of the Galactic Council by landing on Cathara Prime. Surrender immediately for processing, or face immediate destruction. Elder Taemin looked at Daeho with ancient, sad eyes. Now you understand the choice before you. Submit to the Council's justice and die quickly, or resist and watch them burn this entire world to hide their crimes. Above them, the Council ships moved into bombardment formation. There's a third option, Deho said suddenly. What? Kira asked. Deho looked at the quantum butterfly still glowing on his shoulder, then at the crystal trees responding to their presence, then at the Ketharans who had survived 3 millennia of imprisonment through hope alone. We tell everyone the truth before they can stop us. So Young understood immediately. Her hands flew over her communications controls, preparing to broadcast on every frequency the human colonies used. They'll jam our signal, she warned. Not if you help us, Deho said to Taemin. Can quantum manipulation boost our transmission? The elder smiled for the first time since they had met him. Young human, he said, you are about to learn what the Council has feared for 3,000 years. The first energy beam from the Council fleet struck the ground 50 meters from where they stood. The crystal trees in that area simply vanished, turned to vapor by the incredible heat. A crater marked where they had been, still glowing red, from the impact. Warning shot, Elder Taemin said grimly. Vex Thari wants us to know he is serious. Deho watched more Council ships descend through the clouds. There had to be at least 30 vessels now, each one capable of destroying a city. Against that kind of firepower, the Ketharans had no defense. Their abilities were powerful, but they were not warriors. Can you boost our transmission or not? He asked Taemin urgently. I can try, the elder replied. But quantum manipulation is not something that can be learned quickly. It takes years of training to safely touch the fundamental forces. We don't have years, So Young pointed out, working frantically to prepare their message. Maybe minutes. Taemin studied Deho's face carefully. There is a way, he said slowly. But it is dangerous. If you fail, the quantum feedback could kill you instantly. If I don't try, we're all dead anyway, Deho replied. The elder nodded. Very well. Give me your hands. Deho held out both hands, and Taemin grasped them firmly. Immediately, Deho felt something electric pass between them, not painful, but overwhelming. It was as if someone had connected his brain directly to the planet's power grid. Feel the connections, Taemin said softly. Everything is linked. The air, the ground, the energy that flows between atoms. Do not try to control it. Simply touch it. Deho closed his eyes and tried to sense what Taemin was describing. At first there was nothing. Then gradually he began to feel something vast and complex surrounding him. It was like standing in an ocean of invisible light, with currents and eddies flowing in patterns too complex to understand. I feel something, he whispered. Good. Now, very gently, try to guide one small current toward your communication device. Meanwhile, aboard the Council flagship, Admiral Vexithari was receiving reports that made no sense. Sir, our jamming field is being disrupted, his communications officer reported. Something on the planet's surface is generating a quantum resonance we've never seen before. That's impossible, Vexithari snarled. The Ketharans have been isolated for 3,000 years. They have no technology capable of penetrating our jamming. It's not technology, sir. The readings suggest direct quantum field manipulation. Vexithari felt a chill of fear. If the Ketharans were teaching their abilities to the humans, then the situation was far worse than he had imagined. He activated his command channel to the entire fleet. All ships, prepare for immediate bombardment. Authorization Omega-77. Sterilize the entire planet. Down on Cathera Prime, Deho was struggling to control the quantum forces flowing through him. It felt like trying to direct lightning with his bare hands. Each time he thought he had grasped one of the invisible currents, it slipped away from him. Breathe, Taemin instructed. Do not fight the quantum field. Join with it. I can't, Deho gasped. It's too much. Kira stepped forward and placed her hand on his arm. Feel how we do it, she said. Suddenly, the chaotic energy around Deho became clear. Through Kira's touch, he could sense how she guided the quantum fields, not by forcing them, but by understanding their natural patterns and gently encouraging them to flow in new directions. Following her example, Deho reached out with his mind and touched one of the currents surrounding their communications equipment. The device immediately began glowing with the same blue light as the crystal trees. "It's working," So Young shouted. "Signal strength is increasing exponentially. I can reach Earth, the colonies, even ships in other star systems." She began broadcasting their message, a complete recording of everything they had learned about Cathara Prime and the Council's 3,000-year deception. The transmission carried not just words but images from the Memory Stone, proof that the Catharans were alive and that the Council had been lying to the entire galaxy. Aboard his flagship, Vexthari watched his jamming field collapse completely. "They're broadcasting to the entire galaxy," his communications officer reported with panic in his voice. "The signal is being amplified by quantum resonance. We can't stop it." "Then we destroy the source," Vexthari ordered. "All ships, open, fire." But before his fleet could begin the bombardment, another voice spoke up from his communications console. "Admiral, this is Commander Ji-hoon of the destroyer Bright Star. I'm receiving orders to fire on civilian targets." Vexthari recognized the name. Ji-hoon was young for a council officer, but he had an excellent record. "Those are not civilians, Commander. They are criminals who have violated our most sacred law." "Sir, I've been monitoring the transmission from the planet. If what they're saying is true, then we're about to commit genocide to cover up war crimes." "The transmission is Catharan propaganda designed to confuse you," Vexthari replied sharply. "Follow your orders." There was a long pause. Then Ji-hoon's voice came back, quieter but firm. "I'm sorry, Admiral. I cannot fire on unarmed civilians, based on 3,000-year-old laws that may have been based on lies. Then you will be court-martialed for insubordination." "That's my choice to make, sir." Across the fleet, other commanders were having similar conversations. The human transmission was being broadcast on emergency frequencies that reached every ship in the system. As the crews listened to Elder Taimin's recorded testimony and watched the Memory Stone's historical images, doubt began spreading through the Council forces. On the planet's surface, Deho felt the quantum fields around him growing stronger. With Kira and Taimin's guidance, he was learning to channel more energy than should have been possible for a beginner. "The transmission is reaching human space," So Young reported. "I'm getting responses from Earth, from the colonial governors, even from the human fleet." Deho smiled grimly. Whatever happened next, the truth was out there now. The galaxy would finally know what the Council had hidden for so long. That's when Admiral Vexthari decided that if his own fleet wouldn't obey him, he would complete the mission himself. His flagship began descending toward the planet, its main weapon charging, for a blast that would turn the entire settlement into molten glass. "He's going to fire," So Young warned. Deho looked up at the massive ship approaching them, its weapon glowing brighter with each second. "Can you stop it?" he asked Taimin. The elder shook his head sadly. "Not alone, but perhaps together?" Kira understood immediately. "A quantum shield, but it would require more power than any of us can channel alone." "Then let's find out what humans can really do," Deho said. He reached out with both hands, one toward Taimin and one toward Kira. The moment their fingers touched, the quantum field around them exploded with light. The quantum shield that formed above the Catharan settlement was like nothing anyone had ever seen. It wasn't just energy. It was crystallized space itself, bending light and matter around it in impossible ways. Admiral Vexthari's main weapon fired at full power, but the energy beam simply curved around the shield and dispersed harmlessly into space. "How is this possible?" Vexthari roared. "No Catharan has ever demonstrated this level of power." His science officer checked the readings twice before reporting. "Sir, the quantum resonance is off our scales, but the pattern, it's not purely Catharan. There's something else mixed in. Something we've never encountered before." Down on the planet, Deho felt like he was holding lightning in his bare hands. The quantum fields flowing through him were incredible, raw power that connected him to every atom in the surrounding forest. Through the link with Taimin and Kira, he could sense the fundamental forces that held the planet together. But more than that, He could feel the fear radiating from the council ships above. Not just Vexithari's anger, but genuine terror from hundreds of crew members who were starting to understand what they had been ordered to destroy. "The shield will hold," Taemin said, his voice strained from the effort. "But we cannot maintain it forever." "We don't need forever," So Young called from her communication station. "The message is spreading. Every human colony is receiving it. Earth Command is mobilizing the fleet. Across the galaxy, the truth about Cathara Prime was causing chaos." On the human homeworld, Admiral Han Yujin read the transmission with growing fury. She had lost friends to council justice over the years, good people who had questioned the wrong policies or asked inconvenient questions. Now she understood why. "Assemble every ship we have," she ordered her staff. "We're going to Cathara Prime." "Ma'am, that will leave Earth defenseless," her aide protested. "If we don't stop this now, there won't be anything left to defend," Yujin replied. But the human fleet wasn't the only one responding to the broadcast. On dozens of worlds, species that had been suppressed or controlled by the Council began demanding answers. The Zephyrian traders whose traditional bioships had been banned centuries ago. The Nexus Collective, forced to abandon their neural linking technology. The crystal builders of Altair 7, forbidden from using their natural architectural abilities. All of them had been told their technologies were dangerous, primitive, or incompatible with galactic civilization. Now they learned the real reason. The Council had feared any technology they couldn't control. Aboard the destroyer Bright Star, Commander Ji-hoon made a decision that would define the rest of his life. Instead of following Admiral Vexithari's orders to bombard the planet, he turned his ship's weapons toward the flagship itself. "Admiral Vexithari," he broadcast on the fleet's command frequency, "I am placing you under arrest for crimes against sapient life and conspiracy to commit genocide." The response was immediate chaos. Some ships in the fleet turned to support Ji-hoon, while others remained loyal to Vexithari. The space around Cathara Prime became a battlefield as Council forces fought each other. In the confusion, Vexithari saw his chance. If he couldn't destroy the planet with his weapons, he would ram his flagship directly into the surface. The ship's massive bulk would generate enough kinetic energy to level the entire continent. "All power to engines," he ordered his bridge crew. "If we cannot silence these lies with weapons, we will silence them with our sacrifice." The flagship began its death dive toward the planet's surface. Down below, Daeho sensed the approaching ship through the quantum field. The massive vessel was falling like a metal asteroid, its hull glowing red-hot from atmospheric friction. In minutes, it would impact with the force of a nuclear weapon. "I can't maintain the shield and stop that ship," he told Taemin. "You don't need to stop it," the elder replied with a slight smile. "You just need to change what stopping means." Kira understood first. "A phase shift. Make the ship pass through the planet instead of hitting it." "Is that possible?" So Young asked. "For a trained quantum manipulator, yes," Taemin said. "For someone who learned these abilities an hour ago, it should be impossible." Daeho looked at the falling ship, then at the Keitharans depending on him, then at So Young, who was still broadcasting their message to the galaxy. He thought about his sister's wedding, about the simple life he had planned, about how everything had changed the moment he set foot on this forbidden world. "Let's find out what impossible really means," he said. He reached deeper into the quantum field than ever before, touching forces that existed at the very foundation of reality. The sensation was overwhelming, like trying to reprogram the universe, itself one equation at a time. Admiral Vexithari's flagship hit the planet's surface at full speed, but instead of the devastating explosion he expected, the massive ship simply passed through the ground as if it were made of air. It emerged on the other side of the planet moments later, completely unharmed but thoroughly confused. The quantum manipulation required to phase shift something that large should have taken a team of master Catharans working together for hours. Daeho had done it alone in seconds after learning the basics just that morning. "Impossible," Vexithari whispered, staring at his undamaged ship floating in space on the far side of the planet. "Admiral," his science officer said quietly, "perhaps We should reconsider our approach. But the battle was already over. The human colonial fleet had arrived, led by Admiral Yu-Jin herself. More importantly, ships from dozens of other species were arriving hourly, all of them demanding to speak with the supposedly extinct Catharans. The Galactic Council's 3,000-year reign of control ended not with a great battle, but with a simple question asked simultaneously across hundreds of worlds. What else have they been lying about? Within 6 months, the Council structure collapsed completely. Species after species withdrew from the organization, choosing to rediscover their own suppressed technologies rather than depend on Council machines. Elder Taemin kept his promise to teach quantum manipulation to anyone willing to learn. Humans, it turned out, were especially good students. Their brains seemed designed to adapt to new ways of thinking, making connections that other species missed. Captain Lee Dae-ho became the first human quantum ambassador, helping to establish schools on dozens of worlds where the ancient knowledge could be shared safely. He never returned to his simple cargo runs, but he did make it to his sister's wedding, arriving in a ship that flew without engines, powered by nothing but his understanding of the forces that held reality together. And every time someone asked him how he had found the courage to stand against the most powerful organization in the galaxy, Dae-ho gave the same answer. I didn't plan to change anything. I just refused to let good people die for someone else's lies. The quantum butterfly that had first appeared when he touched Kithara's soil still glowed on his shoulder wherever he went. A reminder that sometimes the smallest action, taken by someone who simply refuses to accept injustice, can reshape the entire universe. Years later, when historians studied the collapse of the Galactic Council, they would mark a single moment as the turning point in galactic civilization, the instant when a human cargo pilot, faced with certain death, chose to learn the impossible rather than accept the inevitable. In the crystal forests of Cathara, Prime, children of a dozen different species now played together, making rocks dance and water flow upward, learning abilities their grandparents had been told were forbidden. The singing trees had grown back stronger than ever, their music carrying across space to worlds where freedom was being rediscovered one quantum manipulation at a time. And in the depths of space, where the Galactic Council's former headquarters drifted empty and dark, a message played on repeat, the broadcast that had started it all still echoing across the galaxy. This is Captain Lee Dae-ho of the human vessel Silver Wind, broadcasting from Cathara Prime. Everything you've been told about this world is a lie. The people here are not extinct, they are not dangerous, and they have been prisoners for 3,000 years. We call upon all free beings in the galaxy to witness the truth and demand justice for the crimes committed in your name. The message would continue broadcasting for decades, a permanent reminder that the course of history could be changed forever by anyone brave enough to take that first forbidden step.